I'm going to look at sampling data with a spreadsheet here. So I have some data on mammal longevity, their size, diet, scientific name. So first I'm going to make a copy of this so I don't mess it up. Duplicate. All right, so just note this particular sheet came with the animals alphabetized by common name, and I gave them a number 2 for reference, so I can keep track of them easily. Sometimes it's nice to number things because your first item doesn't necessarily start on the first row, and so when you look down at the row number, it's not exactly the number of items in your list because you might have one or more headings. So anytime you need to count something in a spreadsheet, it's not a bad idea to have a number count for each row. As far as sorting goes and ordering, I'm going to highlight all my data. Under the data menu, you can sort the sheet or the range by a certain column. I'm going to use the sort range option that gives me some more features. I'm going to note my data has a header row, so I could sort by number. They already are. I could sort by animal. Well, they already are. I could sort by longevity, so that would be a little bit different. And what happens since I highlighted all of these together, it's going to keep the items together in a particular row, so that the bat, for example, is number 2 and has a longevity of 1 year and a size of 15 kilograms. That's a big bat. That information is going to stay together. So I'll hit sort, and you can see bat, who was number 2 on the list, is now on line 1 because I sorted by longevity. And I can repeat that and sort by any other column I like. So again, highlighting the data menu, sort range, has a header row. I could sort by diet instead. Now, there are many different herbivores, omnivores, or carnivores, so I could do a sub-sort. So for each particular herbivore, I could then sort them by longevity. So you can sort in groups. So now what I have is I have all the carnivores together, and they start with the ones that live the least all the way up to the ones that live the longest. And there's one exception. The dog got left out. This cell must have a different carnivore with a space at the end versus these are carnivore without a space. So the spreadsheet notices everything. What happened anywhere else? The herbivores seem to be ordered, and the omnivores are not quite ordered right. So there must be some omnivores with a space at the end. Yeah, interesting. Little things you got to worry about when a computer does exactly what you tell it. Fix that. I think so. All right, let's try it again. And we should do it right. Data, sort, first by diet, and then by longevity. And now the dog is in where it's supposed to, 5 to 50. Herbivores go from 1 to 70, and omnivores go from 1 to 25. Cool. All right, we got it. So it's up to you how you want to sort these. I'm going to put them back to the way they were. So I'm going to sort my range by number. All right, so here's the way they were. Now, next thing I want to take a look at is some random sampling instead of just sorting. So there's a couple of formulas that are helpful, or functions. First one is called rand, and what rand does is gives you a number between 0 and 1. You don't have to give it any information, and anytime you edit your sheet, like suppose I type the word random over here, and it will recalculate that random number. So anytime a change is made in the spreadsheet, it recalculates the random number. Random number is always going to be a decimal. Next idea is rand between. So I could choose a random number between 1 and 43, because I have 43 animals here. here it says grab number 25. So I could say, okay, I've just randomly picked a howler monkey. So I could copy, Control C that name, and paste it over here. And each time I do that, it gives me a new random number. So now I have 39. So I can find animal number 39, the squirrel, copy. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm making a random selection of it's number 17, the elk. I can just repeat this however many times I need to. Cool. All right, another cool thing I can do is I'm going to add a new column. Let's put it on the end. Call it rand. Let's delete that random number. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bunch of random numbers on the end here, and I'm just going to use the rand feature to do that. It's kind of wild. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a whole bunch of random numbers by filling that down. So bottom right corner is the autofill, which is like copy and paste. Now I'm going to give each animal a random number. So here I have my random numbers, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to resort the spreadsheet according to those random numbers. So now I have a list of animals that are in a random order because I'm sorting by that random number. So data, sort range, data has a header row, sort. Sort by rand. So now they're in some random order. Now notice I lost track of that because every time you do something on the spreadsheet, it calculates random numbers. But according to the list of random numbers that was there just a moment ago, sea lion had the smallest random number and leopard had the largest random number, which is kind of fun. So then maybe here I could grab the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 random animals in my list. So a couple ways to do what's called a simple random sample. All right, so that was kind of fun. Let's delete. Another popular way to do a random selection from a data set is to use a systematic random sample. For the systematic random sample, you need some starting points, and then you need some distance in between your selections. Call that dist for distance. And then from there, I can make a list. So let's start off, make this work out nice. So let's see. Some extra information I might want is how many numbers are on my list. I can do a count on the list. Computer counts. Oops, wrong place. I'm going to count. This did that all wrong. Counts the longevity. So there's column C. All right, there are 43 numbers in the longevity column, so that's good to know. 43 is not a nice number, but it's close to 42, which is 6 times 7. So let's say I want to have a distance between my numbers of 6. For my starting number, I want to pick a starting number between 1 and 6. So I'm going to pick a random number here between 1 and 6. The computer said start at the 6th element here, and then jump every 6 to get the next one. So I can make a list that does that for me. So up to the side here, I'm going to do that. Fix this before it changes by just calling it 6. So I'm going to grab the 6th element, and then from there, I'm just going to take my previous number. Up. Just happened. Previous number. There we go. And add 6 to it. So I just made a formula that adds 6 in this second row, and I'm going to fill it down until I get as far as I need to. Mouse struggles today. All right, so then my systematic random sample is going to select the 6th element, the 12th element, the 18th, the 24th, and so on. Another cool spreadsheet trick. There's a formula called index. Index just means what number in the list are you. And so it will look in a list and say, hey, grab me that person. So my reference here are the numbers I want to choose from, or the animals I want to choose from. So I'm going to say, hey, grab one of these names. And only grab it if its index is this number right here. Parentheses. So it will say, hey, the sixth thing in the list is rabbit. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Yep, it is. Go away, Facebook. Pop-ups, don't you? All right, now I could fill this down, but I'm going to have a little bit of problem. The reason is when you fill a formula down, it's going to want to change the row numbers. So it's going to change the 2 to a 3 and a 44 to a 45. That's bad because my data is between 2 and 44. So I need to put dollar signs to say, hey, always start in row 2, and then dollar sign always start in row 44. But I want to switch to K2, then K3, and so on. So now if I fill it down, you'll notice that although my first formula said go from $$2 to $44 for where the animals are listed, start by the whatever K1 says, the next one, that's almost the same, but it says now K2, K3, K4. And when you fill down with formulas, that's what happens. It changes the row number. But my data was always in the same spot. I didn't want to change those row numbers. So here I now have a systematic random sample of 7 items where I started with the 6th element and then grabbed every 6th element after that. Systematic random sample. Other types of random samples. We could do a stratified random sample or a clustered random sample. With stratified random samples, you have some grouping that's significant, like male versus female, age groups, people in their teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, and you want to grab a certain number of people from their teens, certain number of people from their 20s. So those are called stratas. They're just ways to split up your population. Here I have a natural way to split up my population, which would be by diet. So I'm going to resort these guys by diet. So data, sort range, hetero, diets. And when you do a stratified random sample, I spelled that wrong, stratified, not good enough either. Only my strong suit. Usually you want to grab a proportional number from each group. So you'd want to know, are there more carnivores than herbivores, and so on. So I might want to count the number of carnivores, herbivores, and so on. So I could just put a little count at the end of each grouping. So here I could go counts, carnivores, 10 of them. And then go find the end of the herbivores. Counts herbivores. And then count the omnivores. And then I'm going to turn those counts into percentages. By dividing by the total, I know there's 43. Cents, copy it, the formula in. So I have 23% carnivores, I have 53% herbivores, and I have 20% omnivores. So for my strata, I have carnivore, herbivore, I have omnivore, okay, and then I have to choose proportionally from my population. So let's say I was going to choose 10 of them, I would want about 2 of them to be carnivores. It's 53, I would want about 5 of them to be herbivores, and then 2, 9, I would want about 2 of them to be omnivores. Add up a little bit. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I ended up with 9 of them. There's a few more carnivores than herbivores, so I would bump that one up to 3. And so then I would want to randomly select from the carnivore group 3. I would want to randomly select 5 from the herbivores, and I would select 2 from the omnivores. If I don't want quite that many in my sample, like maybe I only wanted 6, I would just knock all these down a bit. So maybe I would choose 1 carnivore. I would choose, let's say, take that down. I can take down 3, take that down to 1. What's that give me? 3, 4, 5. Maybe move the carnivores up to 2 because there's a couple more carnivores than there are omnivores, right? 10 versus 9. That's pretty close. So maybe I would want 1, 4, 1. If I wanted a random sample of 6, proportionally stratified is what I would have there. So then I would have to find a way to randomly pick one of these carnivores, randomly pick one of my herbivores, and randomly pick one of my omnivores. And we already talked about ways to randomly pick different groups. So stratified. Next is the idea of a clustered random sample. Stuff, try again. Clustered is kind of sort of similar to strata. You have some way to group your data, and then from those groups you randomly pick one or more of the clusters and you survey every single one of those clusters. So in this case, I have a couple of ways to do that. I could, again, sort by diets, and then I would randomly pick one of those. So let's say 1, 2, 3, number my clusters, my diet, and they are carnivore, herbivore, and omnivore. And so then what I want to do is randomly pick one of these. So rand between 1 and 3. And that says number 3. And so again, what I'm working on here is a clustered sample. So what I would do is I would survey then, I would grab all of the omnivores, and that would be my random sample. Other ways I might do that, I could do it by size and group the animals into like small, medium, and large, and extra large. That's just for fun. Sort range. Hetero, sort by size, bang. Okay, so now they're in order of size. So then I have to say, okay, what do we got here? So we've got some animals that are less than a kilogram. So they're like extra small. So maybe I'll highlight those suckers yellow. And then we have all these single digit creatures. So we could make those, what, some shade of orange. So these could be the extra smalls. These guys are the smalls. And then maybe the under 100-pound ones right there. Let's see what's a nice color next. Some shade of red. Those could be my, say, medium smalls. And then maybe 2 500, low 500. Those could be my mediums. So I'm just making a different kind of cluster. Let's go purple, medium. I'll have large, which say up to 1,000 maybe. I think 1,000 this time. Shade of purple. So these guys are my large. And these guys down here will be my extra large. So my clusters instead here are going to be small, small, medium, small, no, dash in there, no big deal, medium, medium, large, and extra large. Get them all. 2, 3, 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6 groupings here. So those are my clusters this time. And so what I'm going to do is say I'll pick 2 different random numbers here. So I'm going to go rand 6. And let's say because I have more clusters, I'm going to pick more than one group. So that says first pick group 2. Highlight those guys. Bold. Color on there too. I guess today orange, blue. And then if I do something else over here, like a number, it says 5 is the next one. And the way clusters work is I select every animal in this small cluster. So I would want all of these guys here. And then I would want all of the large animals too. So that's my random selection by cluster. Just a slightly different way of grabbing from your groups. Common ways to do this with clusters would be, say, if you're serving a city and you don't have a list of all the names in the city, so it wouldn't be easy to do a simple random sample, but you do have lists of neighborhoods or blocks, or you have some way to break up the city into different regions, then you would randomly grab some of those blocks or neighborhoods and survey everybody in each of the neighborhoods that you randomly selected. So that's a clustered random sample. Thanks for playing with me. Have a good day.